Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I'm joined with Kevin O'Reilly, a communication expert, Toastmasters leader, and the founder of Thrive Now Group. Kevin has dedicated his career to help people grow their confidence, sharpen their speaking skills, and build stronger connections, whether that's in interviews, business meetings, or on stage. He is also the host of a podcast called My Worst Interview Ever. In this conversation, we will explore Kevin's personal journey, the lessons he has learned from building his own business, and his best advice on networking and communication so you can thrive in your professional and personal life. So, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your journey with us.
Sid, thank you for the invitation. It's quite strange to be on the other side of this, actually. So I'm now starting to feel what my guests feel. It's a little bit of anxiety of what's he going to ask.
Yeah, so all the questions are about you, so no need to worry. Let's start. If you could give us a little more insights about your personal life and your journey on building Thrive Now Group so our listeners can get to know you a little bit more.
Absolutely. I worked in retail for nearly 20 years for a large retail organisation across the UK and Ireland. And I reached the grand old area of being an area director, which was my dream job whenever I was in that. However, my wife fell ill and I had to take care of her. And unfortunately, I had to step them back from that role because there was quite a lot of work involved in the caring. And unfortunately, she passed away in 2014. And I then had to step back into store. So from 2014 to when was COVID? 2019? Yeah, to 2019, I was back in store because I needed a stable base to bring my children up from, to be honest. I had two young children then of 8 and 9 at that time. And I needed to be able to be in one place at one time. Now, since then, I have met an absolutely fantastic woman, remarried, and now I have 4 children. And during COVID, I was made redundant. So not only was I made redundant, I had to go around and close all of the other retailers as well. So there was about 651 staff that I had to go around to make redundant, or at least in the process of being made redundant. And I kept hearing the comment they kept making. The fear wasn't around losing their job. They knew that was going to happen. The fear was actually around getting a new job and having to go for the interview. Because the interview is actually one of those situations that really pull on all of our worst fears. That fear of the unknown. What questions are they going to ask me? Who's going to be in the room? What type of room is it going to be? What if I make an idiot out of myself? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I freeze in public? All of the fears that we absolutely dread, they wrap them all up and they call it an interview. They do.
Right.
They do.
Yeah.
So from there, I thought, do you know what? There's something in this. And I sat down for about 6 months after I was made redundant, and I got out this sheet and I wrote down 100 things that I was really good at. And then every day I kept scoring off things. And one of the things in my head was, one of the criteria in my head was, which of these will potentially become a business and I can make money at? And then it evolved into, which one of these can I make money at and support people in their growth? And it completely changed. It became so much easier then to start scoring off the list. And it got down to 2 and interview skills coach. The other one obviously was male stripper, Sid, but I couldn't do that. So I thought interview skills coach, that's the way to go. So we went for that instead. And you know what, Sid, I have never looked back. The people I get to meet, you wouldn't believe the people I get to meet. From government officials to politicians to doctors to janitors to bricklayers to you name it, they have come to me for interview support at one stage or another. And I love the variation of the people. Love the variation of the people. And whatever we're doing within our sessions, my clients have a 97% success rate. Now, I believe that's because I have brought a lot of different avenues into what I do. I have trained as a behavioural analyst. I've trained as a counsellor. I'm an NLP practitioner. I'm a communications specialist and expert. And when you bring all of this together, you're only setting yourself up for success. And I am a complete advocate for personal development. That is me in a nutshell. If it was in the dictionary and it said, look up personal development, you maybe see a little picture of me beside it because I love personal development. But now I love sharing that personal development with others. I have done, or I am doing, the hard slog and the hard work. And I want other people to feel the gains that I have. So that's why I do these things. That's why I continue to do these things. And that's why I started up the Thrive Now group. The Thrive Now group is actually more so to do with business to business. Because the one-to-one with the interview skills coach is great, but there are so many other opportunities within the business world. And just between me and you, Sid, there is a new iteration of the Thrive Now group coming, and it's going to be called the Thrive Now Network.
All right.
So this is going to be this is the official mentioning of this, by the way. So this is the exclusive. This is the exclusive. This is going to be a paid subscription platform where you can come on. It's for leaders, entrepreneurs, and business owners. And I consider myself to be a good listener, and I do lots and lots of different workshops. And what I keep hearing from entrepreneurs, business owners, and leaders is the loneliness that they feel starting up the business. There are government help out there, but it stops very quickly. It stops really quickly, and then you're left to your own devices. And one of the main issues that people have is being able to bounce an idea off someone or have a conversation with someone, or in my case, tell me to shut up and get on with it. To stop talking and just get on with the work. And we don't have that accountability as sole traders. And some people need that accountability. So the idea is that we will create this family where we will have WhatsApp groups, we will have online webinars, we will have in-person webinars as well. What's the name for the opposite of a webinar when you're in person? It's not a webinar.
In-person meetings.
In-person meetings. Let's go for that.
Yeah.
Conversations and meetings. Yes. So we're going to be doing that. We're going to be doing that on a monthly basis, and that's just a subscription service. And as soon as you pay your subscription, you're now a member. You can get a hold of everything that we have. And once or twice a year, we want to do huge events and bring everybody together. So that's the little exclusive for you, Sid, for inviting me on.
And I have follow-up questions on the networking part as well. But before we move on, I loved what you said is about you wrote down all of the 100 strengths that you have, and then you based your business idea on that. We have people so many times they say, I don't have a business idea, I don't know what to start, but they can always start from the strengths that they are good at and start a business. That's what you did.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. And did you know what? It was a process. It wasn't a one and done thing in a day, because you had to go away and you had to sleep on it. And the way I looked at it was, there's 100, let's lose 50. I always went half, and half. Just keep halving it until you're down to 2. And that's the best way to do these exercises. Now, I would do similar exercises with my own clients and with clients within workshops. I would say to them, think of the 10 most important things that you have right now. Okay. Now make that 5, the 5 most important high priorities. And you should see the struggle in that room. You can physically see the struggle in that room. But it's good because when you're asking people to really half a number, for especially 10 down to 5, it's a huge task. But if you give them a time and you get them to stick to that time, it removes the overthinking. It gets them to really focus in on what is important There was another little technique I had read about how you focus your decision making to make the right decisions, and it said that you should hold yourself from going to the bathroom long enough to make the decision. So you can't go to the bathroom until you make the decision. Because what normally happens is you stop overthinking and you make the decision based on all of the information, facts, and the information you have in front of you.
Mm, that's such a good example.
Yeah.
Makes sense. And what were like your major challenges you faced when you were building the business, and how did you overcome it?
One of the major challenges was not knowing where to go for support or help. As I said, there is organisations where I live in Northern Ireland that help you get started, but they don't help you get moving. So the help is there to get you started, and the help that they give is very good. It is mentoring for a certain amount of hours, but then after that, you're left to your own devices. And that's where I see the real challenge in starting a business. It's easy to come up with the idea to an extent. It's easy to get yourself a domain name. It's easy to get yourself started off. But where do you go? What's your strategies? What's your direction? Where's the outcome you want to get to? And sometimes that outcome could be so far away that you don't want to do it. There was many a morning when I sat in this very office that you see now for 6 hours and thought, I should just go and get a job. That's what I thought for all that length of time. I should just go get a job because it would be much easier than sitting here trying to come up with things that I think people want. And how do I advertise that? And who am I advertising it to? These were not skills I had. Not at all. I had worked for organizations who had people with those skills. I was just the executor as such. So right now I had to go from someone who was doing to still doing, but the marketer, the cleaner, the strategist, the CEO, the CFO. I had to have all of those hats on. And at times that was quite overwhelming when you're sitting looking at your bank balance and it's zero. Actually, it's minus zeros because you have pumped money into getting your business up and running. And I can understand the statistic that nearly 90% of all businesses don't work out within the first year. I can completely get that. I can understand why. But there was just something in me, Sid, that kept driving me forward, kept getting me up at 6 a.m. every morning and continues to. There's that motor that keeps me moving. And it's when someone comes to me and says, Kevin, do you know what? I couldn't be doing what I'm doing without the support I got from you. You've changed my life. You've changed my future. And that happens quite often in a week. And it's those moments that really stick with you. It's almost like a drug, Sid. It almost spurs you on to do more.
Hmm. So what would you say, like, what drives you to do what you do is the support and the help you're giving to people?
Yeah, it is. There are many people out doing something similar to what I do, but they're not authentically themselves, and they're not treating their clients with the respect that their clients deserve. So I want to be that person filling that gap. I am that person filling that gap, but now I want to do that on a grander scale, and that's where the Thrive 9 network comes in. It will be able to do that on a grander scale.
Yeah, definitely. And I think when we had the first conversation, when we had the podcast pre-chat, you also gave me so many good nuggets on how can I improve. So even after leaving, I learned something from you. You shared that knowledge. So that was amazing as well. So thank you for that,
My
Kevin.
pleasure. Now, sharing knowledge is something I do every day, and I'm quite happy to share that knowledge and without payment. Because if someone is wanting to come to me and ask me questions, there's a real need there that I want to support with. But what you'll tend to find as a business owner, and something I've learned, especially in what I do, is most of us give our information away for free. Okay, now my job is actually to get paid for my information, technically, but my job is actually for implementation, not the information as such.
What do
So
you
that's
mean?
me. What I mean by that is I can give you lots of stuff. I can point you in directions of YouTube videos and you can go away and learn how to do and be whoever you want to be. That is going to take you a long time to do because you're not sure which person you should listen to or do what they say. But when you're with me, you're getting instant feedback. Instant feedback. And with the experiences I have and the skill set that I have built up over the years, that instant feedback, that will save you years and years of work. Potentially years of thinking, I'm not good enough to do this. I don't have the skill
Yeah.
set to do this. So that's what I tried to do for people. I tried to bring them on that journey a little quicker and with a lot less stress.
Talk about a bit about Thrive Now Network. I want to talk about networking a bit more. So what's the advice on how can we network better for someone who feels awkward networking? What's the advice for them?
I had a very good friend of mine who coined this phrase that I absolutely love. He said he hates networking, absolutely detests networking, which would surprise you if you've seen him in a networking event because he is absolutely brilliant at it.
All right.
Okay, he is one of the best networkers I've seen, but it takes him a long time and a lot of work to do that, and it does drain the social battery really quick for him. He coined the phrase a ninja, a social ninja. Okay,
Social ninja.
a social ninja, and what he means by that is that he would like to go into the room, but be like a ninja, hug the walls, don't let anybody know he's even there, don't give eye contact. That's his thought of networking because he dreads it that much. Now, on the flip side, I know another girl who, what she does before she walks into a networking event is she stands outside, she has a word with herself. Before she goes in the door, she says, go to the center of the room. Okay, and then she takes a big
Okay.
deep breath in and she walks to the center of the room. The center of the room, in psychological terms, is the most dangerous part of the room because you can't see what's coming from behind. And naturally, we are always in protection mode. So we want to make sure that potentially there's a wall behind us or something behind us so we know we don't have to keep looking over our shoulder. So she always goes to the middle of the room and tries to get the middle of the room and have those conversations with the people in the middle of the room. And the people in the middle of the room are usually the same people like her. Okay? So now you're almost in with your same people. Those who hug the walls and you hug the walls, those are your same people. Now, I'm not saying either one is right or wrong. You just have to remember that the people who are hugging the walls, if you're a wall hugger, then that's your people. Go speak with them firstly. But those people who are in the middle, they're the people who are loud, a little louder, a little prouder. You'll see they stand differently. You'll hear them talk louder because they don't mind that. They enjoy that space. That is where they're more of an extrovert as such. They get their energy from other people. But for me, one piece of advice is preparation. Okay? And let me tell you what I mean by preparation. Whenever you're going in to a networking event, usually you will know where you're going, as in you have to know where you're going or you can't get there. You will know what time it starts and finishes. You will know roughly who the speakers are because that should all be there for you to sell the event. You can go and you should go and do your research. Who are these people? And the first thing I always do is look for a question I can ask them if I get an opportunity.
That's such a good
Okay.
one.
So
Yeah.
come prepared with questions. So do a little bit of research on who's speaking. Go away and take some notes. A little bit of research. And then when you turn up, you have your notes written, you're ready to ask a question, and you don't have to panic. But another really good thing about asking a question, when you're in the room and someone is going round, and this took me quite some time, Sid, to master myself, by the way. When you're in a room sitting down, and usually what happens is the host will say, does anybody have a question for the panel or for the person or whatever? Your arm should be the first one up. The first one up, regardless. Okay? It should be straight up and go, yes, I have a question. Straight away. The reason for that is when you get the microphone or you get a chance to ask the question, the very first thing you say is, hi, my name is Kevin O'Reilly from the Thrive Now group. My question is, okay, so what have I just done, Sid? In a room, let's say, of 50 people, I have told them who my name is, so I've removed the fear of the unknown, so they can approach me at any time now because they know my name, and I've told them what business I work for.
That's powerful.
And I've asked a really good question. Again, in psychology, there's a thing called recency and agency. People will remember the first thing you say and the last thing you say, but it's rare they remember the stuff in the middle. That's why even when you're doing speeches and when you're doing public speaking, your start and your end. So your start is your sort of introduction, powerful grabber, and your end is your call to action. Those are the parts that matter most, believe it or not. So recency and agency. So if you're the first hand up, people remember you. And what it tends to do is whenever you get, then there's a break within the networking itself or the networking event itself, you're grabbing tea and coffee, someone in that room will come to you instead of you having to go look for them. And those people who are coming to look for you, they're your clients. So you may be looking at the 50 people around this room going, oh, there's a person there, has a few quid, there's a person there with lots of business contacts, there's a person, etc., etc. They may never buy from you, ever. But those people that are coming to you, more than likely, they are your clients. Because they want to know more.
Because you asked a good question, like, hey, I liked your question, I would love to know more. And then you can build that connection.
You see how that works, Ed?
Yeah, definitely. Wow, I love that.
Yes.
And just on that, so, okay, that person comes up to us and asks a question, then how can we really build a connection with them rather than coming across as transactional? What's your advice on that?
Well, I'll give you two answers to that, okay?
Yes.
So I'll give you one more little tip on the interaction, the start of the interaction. So when you're coming in or they're coming in, okay, so let's say they are approaching you, okay, and they say, hello, Kevin, how are you? And I go, I'm very well, thank you. And I'll go, and what is it you do? Okay, you need to be the first person to say, hello, what is it you do? The reason for that is because if you start in with your elevator pitch, you could be completely missing exactly what they need. So when you're listening to their pitch they're giving you, you're formulating in your head, what do I have that can actually support this person, help this person, and achieve their needs? That's what goes through your head. And then your pitch comes back building on what they've just said. The elevator pitch is great, and I teach the elevator pitch to many, many people. I teach the 1 minute, the 3 minute, the 10 minute, and the presentations. I teach that to like hundreds of people, if not thousands of people a year. But if you are smart, you will ask the question first. You will ask the question first because it allows you then to find out their wants and their needs. Because if someone said to me, hi Kevin, I'm a truck driver from such and such, but before that I had given them my spiel about, oh yeah, we're interview skills coach, oh we're the Thrive Now group, oh we help people with business owners, and they're going, it's totally lost on them, isn't it? Totally lost on them. But you'd ask the question about how do you build that relationship? It's the intention you go in with at the very beginning. So in your preparation, your intention, you should pull together your intentions. Why am I going here? Is it to go and grab a big whale so that they'll give me plenty of money? Maybe. Is the intention to go and make friends? Maybe. Is the intention to go and expose yourself to this networking event so that you can start to get over the fear of networking? Maybe. Maybe it's all of those. But for me, the intention when I go in is I want to provide a service and also hear what they have to say. So I'm listening a lot. I'm not doing a lot of talking, I'm doing a lot of listening. And that's the biggest difference. When you see people in networking events, a lot of them are doing lots of talking. They're not doing a lot of listening.
I love that. It's completely opposite. Yeah.
Isn't it? But I'm there to build relationships with people, not short term, because you mentioned transactional. Transactional is a short term relationship. I'm there to build a long term relationship so that in 10 years, 15 years' time, that is still a client of mine in 10 or 15 years' time. It is cheaper to hold on to a client than it is to find new clients. Okay? And that's just not in the marketing sense of things. That's in the energy and the stress level sense of things. It's easier holding on to a client for a long period of time than it is to try and find new ones.
Yeah. And I read one of your articles that you wrote in your Thrive Now group website. I really loved all of those articles. And one of those articles you said to lead with generosity. And I think what you said there is you come into networking as a way that to help someone else. So when you're listening to someone, you're helping them, providing advice. So I think that's perfectly sums up that idea that you
Well,
mentioned.
somebody told me a long time ago when I first started, and they said, Kevin, if you help people get what they want, they'll help you get what you want. Now, listen to how that is phrased. If you help people get what they want, so that's the first thing, they will help you get what you want. And I've always thought that first. Let me help you get what you want, Sid. Because you may not be able to help me today, but in 5 years' time, you might go, Kevin, do you know what? Remember that conversation we had? I need that. I need you now. I need your business now. I need your company now. And that's how these things work. And that's where we get away from this transactional stuff.
No, so true. And I think there's another thing. I connected with someone on LinkedIn, and as I connected with that person, they said, "Hey, Sid, nice to connect. How can I help?" I was like, "Oh, wow. No one has said me that." I was like, "Okay, whoa."
It's
So
different, isn't it?
yeah, I was like, no one has said that, and I think it was just like caught me off guard and just set that person apart from all the connections I've said.
Do you know what? I love
So
that, actually.
that's another tip.
I'm going to borrow that one, Sid, if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Teach one to learn, here to spread the knowledge.
I don't steal ideas, Sid. I just borrow them.
No problem at all. And as you said, you're the communication expert as well. And by the way, I loved your TEDx. I will be coming to that. But before I go on to that, I want to know what one communication mistake you made early in your career that taught you the most.
Communication mistake I made that taught me the most. Not understanding the importance of communication, I think, is the biggest mistake anybody and everybody makes. Genuinely, that is it. Not learning the skill of communication. That is the biggest mistake most people make. Because they think that it's just, we do it every day, we must be good at it. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I mean, you should have heard me before I started Toastmasters and before I became really interested in communication. I and I and I panicked and I stressed and I couldn't put my words together. My stage presence was non-existent. I couldn't manage my nerves. I couldn't manage my breathing. My legs would shake. It was horrific. Absolutely horrific. And I joined Toastmasters because I was at a stage in my life where I was knocking off all of the fears that I had because they were holding me back. They were holding me back. And when I actually looked at them and started to peel them away, the fear was just me. Actually, I don't fear too many bad things. I sometimes fear, where will I go when this whole business and organization explodes into what it's going to be? Who will I be then? Well, I think I've answered my own question with lots of meditation and lots of conversations. Is I'm going to be this guy I am now. I'm just going to be able to help more and support more people.
And I read another article that you mentioned. Really amazing quote that I had to read it 3, 4 times. I think that was by an neuro-linguistic programming expert, Tad James, that he said, the meaning of communication is in the response you get.
So
That
powerful,
is
isn't it?
so powerful.
So powerful.
That is sums up everything about communication. So I want to say that you mentioned in your newsletter that you live by that. So tell me what really inspired you about this quote.
Oh, when I heard this quote, it flipped the whole communication on its head.
Yeah,
I thought,
same for me.
yeah, well, I thought that communication was about just talking. Now, I'm sure you have worked within businesses, as have I, and your manager has run past and barked 4 instructions at you, and then went away, and then you've went, what was the second one? But they're gone. Yeah, they're absolutely gone. Even if you write them down, you might still go, what was I to do with the second one? And that is not communication. That is just talking. Communication lies at the feet of the person delivering the communication. It has to be checked for understanding. It has to be. And this is what my whole TED talk was based around, was that one quote, actually, because it actually changed how I thought about communication in general. And I don't just talk to people. I check for understanding. I make no assumptions, and I clarify everything. And it's why I created the ACC of communication model. Assume nothing, check for understanding, and clarify everything. Because you might say, can you put that over there? There's quite a vague word. You may even point to it. But to me, I don't know where there is. I would like to know, almost militaristically communicated, to say, in that 2-foot box over there. Because what I tended to find was that my there and your there are usually different. So we're wasting both our times. And this happens in businesses everywhere. This happens in businesses every day. When someone gives such a vague instruction that it completely, someone goes, well, I think this is what it means, so I'll do that. Nobody, well, I'm not saying nobody. The vast majority of people do not set out to do things wrong. They set out to do it right. So if there's a mistake that happens, 9 times out of 10, it's because it wasn't communicated properly. There wasn't a checking for understanding. And I came across this many, many years ago when I was reading a book about speech writing. And it was an American president, and his name has escaped me, but it was an American president who had a new speechwriter. And he said to his speechwriter, I want you to write me a really good speech. Away you go and write me this speech. And he went away and he wrote this speech. And he came back, rapped the door and says, here you go, Mr. President, here's the speech. And he says, is that the best you can do? And he stood and he looked at him and he went, oh, okay. So took it away again, went away and done it. Came back, rapped the door again the next day, gave it to the president again. The president said, is that the best you can do? So had a look at it. Is that the best you can do? He went, okay, give me it. Away I went again. Come back again, rapped the door. President says, is that the best you can do? And the guy went, that's the absolute best I could do. And the president says, I'll read it now then. I'll read it now then. Now, what that told me was he didn't know where the end was. Now, that was one of the lessons I took from it, but he didn't know where the end was. As in, he didn't know what finished looks like or what done looks like. And it was a question I used to get my staff to ask me. When I give an instruction, I come from a place of understanding and knowing. It's called the curse of knowledge. I know what I'm trying to say and how to say it, but I didn't check to make sure you understood that you understood what I was saying. That's what it's called. It's literally called the curse of knowledge. And whenever I then started to think, I told them that, but they done it different. I used to get them to ask me, Kevin, what does done look like? Because it used to stop me in my tracks. And I used to think then, actually, what does done look like? and then I would explain it properly, and then I would allow them time for questions to go, yeah, you said stick it over there. Do you mean like they're in the corner, or they're against the wall, or they're just out from the wall? Or so it allowed them to ask follow-up questions as well by just asking, what does done look like? It saved so many aggravated communication. It saved so many problems. We actually started to hold on to staff longer because they weren't having to do a job 3 times. Because I didn't explain it right the first time or the second time or the third time. And it was only then when I had my own children who have some communication challenges themselves that I start to really delve into understanding communication at a really, really basic level, which most people don't do. They try to run before they can walk. So I actually went back to crawl and worked from the bottom up and looked at rhetorical devices that are being used and tried to understand exactly how people communicate and why they communicate that way. And it blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. And it's just something I always think, why isn't this taught in schools? Why isn't this taught in business schools as well? Even now, why isn't it taught in business schools? Listening, understanding, clarification. It's so easy, so effective, and maybe that's why it's not done, because people think it's too easy.
Probably why. And I loved your framework, by the way. Let's deep dive on that, the ACC framework. And I think that is so practical, and all our listeners can apply it from right away, today,
Yes.
now.
Yep.
So I would love for you to just elaborate further and maybe give us a practical example. You already gave one, maybe like a corporate example that you can give that our listeners can further understand this and use it right away.
Okay. So the ACC of communication stands for assume nothing, clarify everything, and check for understanding. Assume nothing, clarify everything, and check for understanding. The assumption is that we assume too much, which is correct. We do. Our brain is actually wired to assume because our brain uses between 20 and 30% of our energy every day. And if it can conserve energy by creating patterns and making assumptions based on those patterns, because we live, believe it or not, in patterns. If you think about what you've done today, and any of your listeners think about what they have done today, it will be a pattern of events that they have done previously. We like the safety of a pattern because we know it's safe, and that's why we do it. So the brain assumes a lot. So the brain will assume that one word means the same thing to you as it does to me. Now, for me to stand and listen to you and assume nothing means I have to be curious, very, very curious. And I think that's probably the biggest takeaway, if we're going to take anything away today, is that curiosity. If you're curious about, well, what does that word actually mean? What is it you're actually trying to say? Because a lot of times, lots of instructions are given in hurry. It's like, right, I'm on my way to a meeting. I want you to do this, 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 this. Or it's sent in an email that you can't decipher. Because again, you can't even gauge tone through an email. So you could be misconstruing somebody going, I need that back by 12 p.m. today, as rude, based on your own mood that you might be in. And you're assuming that they're also being snarky and rude to you. That's because we can't read tone. We can't get the tone from the email or a text or a WhatsApp message or whatever else. And I was reading something actually this week with regards to communication and phone calls in universities. They're teaching university students now how to answer a phone.
Really?
Yeah. How to answer a phone.
Why?
Because they text, or they WhatsApp, or they Snapchat. They never, ever speak directly with anybody. So there's no interaction. There's no understanding the rules almost of communication, and there's no practicing.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Because I think that's why they say that nowadays generation are the most loneliest because they're not going out networking and meeting people, right? Because they don't have that communication skills.
Yeah.
Makes
And
sense.
that's right. And that's why I said this should be taught in schools.
Yeah, and I think I read an article. I think it was at Bloomberg or somewhere. Well, all these interns coming into organizations, they're not having those coffee chats or in between corridor chats with the managers, directors, and they're missing out. And even the work from home is not helping. So it's a massive where they're missing out. So communication is vital.
It is. It is. And, I'm glad you even mentioned about the working from home because as a business owner, you do a lot of working either, especially if you're a sole trader and you're running a small business, you're probably doing a lot of it yourself.
Yeah,
And you might be speaking to 10, 15, 20 people a day, but a lot of it is business related. And you're not even getting, as you said, those water cooler conversations where you might be just saying, do you know who does this? And do you know who does that? And what do you think of this idea? Is that a good idea? But again, I understand there is other dynamics to be taken into consideration working in an
yeah,
organization also that isn't always good or nice. But you have to create that balance, don't you? You really have to. You have to take away from what you the good stuff you get from the stuff that you don't want. And
yeah,
I'm a great
for sure.
believer in you find what you're looking for. So if you're looking for negativity, you'll find it. If you're looking for positivity, you'll find it. So it's about the mindset, isn't it? It's about getting yourself prepared and ready for that.
I love that as well. And since we are still on communication, I would love to ask you. So, what's your non-negotiable in your communication style? Whether you're in an interview, speaking in a public, or coaching someone else. So, what's your like a non-negotiable communication style?
Could I ask what you mean by non-negotiable?
So, any strategy that you use whenever you're communicating with someone, you follow this. Whether that's ACC framework you follow, or there's some like technique that you use in every conversation that helps you set the flow of it.
So what you're asking me is what is it I use generally to create the conversation
Yeah,
and
your
communicate
communication.
better?
Yeah, your
So,
communication style.
okay. So firstly, that was an example of the ACC framework I just used. Okay. The clarification part at the end is the repeating back what I
I
think you
liked it.
want.
Yeah,
Okay. And asking the question at the very beginning of what does that word mean? That is me not assuming I understand what it means, and that is me checking for understanding.
love that one.
Okay.
Yeah, and I
So,
felt okay. Wow, you listened as well. From a perspective. I thought, oh wow, okay, he listened, he understands, and now he's going to give a good answer. So yeah,
yeah. So the last little part about the checking and repeating back, it's called the confirmation loop, is I am actually confirming what you said, and that's where you think I am listening. And I am listening, but that's where you know I am listening. And now there's a relationship already starting to build because you want to be heard as a person. And this is what you talked about with the network and how do you build this quickly? Listen, repeat back, and people will then start to go, he is listening. He is listening. So do me a favor and ask the question again, please, would you?
yeah, definitely. So, what are the non-negotiables in your communication style?
Mine is to listen. I must listen. I will never ever go in and just start to talk. That is one of my non-negotiables. I need to listen because this conversation isn't just about me. There are two people in a conversation. But what I have tended to find is that if you become a really good listener and really good at giving that feedback loop, what tends to happen is the person who has done most of the talking will leave thinking they've had the best conversation they've ever had. When in actual fact, all they've done is talk. Because that's what they wanted to do. When you give someone an opportunity to talk, they usually will take it. They will usually take it. And then you become almost like the bystander listening in. But then when you start to use the feedback loop and say, is this what you mean by what you're saying? Then you're starting to create again that feedback loop of he's listening and he wants me to tell him more. And then that's where you encourage that out of people. And you will be shocked at what people will tell you if you allow them to tell them. If you just literally sit and say very little and just keep doing that feedback loop over and over again, people will actually tell you lots of different things that you probably don't want to hear a lot of times, and probably you shouldn't hear.
That's another strategy. Like, use it as your own thing. Like,
use it as your own thing.
Yeah.
If there's anybody out there who knows about NLP, neuro linguistic programming, or as I like to call it, brain language programming, because that's what you're doing. I listen to everybody's words. I listen to their body language. I watch their body language. I listen to every single detail about communication, because it's not just about the words you say. In actual fact, it's less about the words you say and more about what your body is saying. Because we can't really lie with our body, but we can lie with our words.
So true.
People are what they do, not what they say they do.
Yeah, that's another thing. Another good one.
Okay? That's it. That's not my quote, by the way. I have a couple of quotes along my wall. That quote actually belongs to Carl Jung, the psychologist. And that is his quote, and it helps me focus on what I need to focus on when I'm doing what I do. There's more times than not I can walk into a room and almost guess to a very high percentage what is going to happen in that room with the people that's there.
Wow.
Just because I'm watching them, and I'm watching if their body language is matching what they're saying, and I've started to understand exactly how to translate that. So, do you know that gut feeling you get? Yeah? Usually that gut feeling is there when something has happened in the past. You can't really put your finger on what it is. You can't translate that feeling that you have into words, but the body has seen this before and is warning you. Okay? The body's seen it before and it's warning you. People say you should listen to your gut. I agree, you should, but to an extent, because there is a little caveat about your gut. Your gut is trained about what you have only seen and been through. It hasn't seen everything and been through everything. So sometimes you might need to challenge it as well. But with your gut, it is so difficult to translate what it's trying to tell you that you'll usually back off something. You'll usually just go, nope, I'm not doing that. Without even questioning it, you just go, nope, it's a gut feeling, I'm not doing it. Or it's a gut feeling, I am doing it.
Makes
So
sense.
communication is more than just words.
Yeah, definitely. And like for our listeners as well, like Kevin doesn't know what questions I'm asking him, by the way. So how are you doing this? Like, what's your strategy for impromptu speeches, by the way? Like, are you following a structure, or that's another question on
No,
structure?
I'm not following a structure at all. What I'm doing is being authentically myself, which has taken me many years to be, because I've tried to be somebody else, tried to be that person that other people want, but I have done so much internal work on myself that if you like me, great. If you don't, that's okay. That isn't going to change how I feel about me. So I tell people that the clothes that I wear, they're not clothes, it is armor. So every morning when I get up and I do my meditations and I read my book, and I'm putting on the armor every single day so that I am ready if there's an insult, if there's a question, if someone doesn't like, that's okay. I am absolutely okay with that. So being authentically myself is my structure for answering these questions. If I was to try and sit here and think, right, what is this structure? He has asked me a question. Should I use a star model? Should I use a curve model? Should I use a different type of model? I now need to remember the model for a start. I then should have had that practiced and then try to shoehorn the actual answer into it. You lose the authenticity of who you are. And I'm all about
Wow,
being authentically you, because
love that.
there is only one of you. It doesn't matter if you're a twin or a triplet. There's only one of you. And it's so important to be yourself. Warts and all. Warts and all. You gotta own it all. Everything. You gotta own everything. Because once you take that personal responsibility for everything, it's very difficult for anybody to hurt you, for anybody to make an idiot out of you, make a fool out of you, push you over. It's very difficult for any of those negative things to happen. So be authentically yourself.
Wow, thank you. And since you mentioned the STAR technique, I would love to ask you, like, do you think the STAR technique is good, or it stops us from coming across as authentic in interviews? Might be a
No,
controversial question, but
no, it's not a controversial question. I think the challenge with lots of people is that they like structure. We all like structure. So when people go into an interview situation, lots of people need to have a structure, because letting them free flow on their own is just like, that's the worst thing that could ever happen, because they have so many different ideas in their head and there's so many different answers that they don't know which one to give. And that's when a lot of people sort of collapse inside themselves and freeze, because they have so
right,
many options, they don't know which to choose. And then when they do know which to choose, they don't know what to do with it. So when you give them a structure, like the STAR model, it helps them structure their answers. Now, like I say to all my clients when we teach the STAR method, it is only to tick boxes, because that's the methodology that the interviewers are using or expecting. It is only to
right.
tick boxes. However, the structure can be used externally, but it is quite rigid. It is quite rigid, and you need to be really good at it to bring it into your real life. But not only that, like at home, it's very difficult to go. And the result was, of all of this work that we just did and all of those actions, this is the result. It works if it's done in the right way.
Yeah,
But if it's not done in the right way, it makes it worse. It makes it worse. Now, I have actually come up with a new model of the STAR that I use with my clients. It's more successful than it's not. Okay, it has a higher percentage of success, and it's very basically the STAR plus R. And we remember numbers quicker than we remember different things. So I like to always give people a nice little start to their answer. And how I always start them within the situation is I always say, when was this? Tell me the date or the year this was. So, for example, in 2014, yada, yada, yada. Okay? I call this the domino effect. So once you have that first domino in place, which is the date, and then we work out the rest of your story, once the first domino drops, the rest of the story just follows. Because numbers are more memorable. If you and your audience now think of a number, you're seeing it as a number, you're not seeing it as a word. There's a reason for that. Okay? There's a reason why it's easier to remember the number instead of you trying to go, well, what does a 33? Trying to remember that as a number, but as a word. It's taken me a second. Whereas if it's 33, it's just 2 3s. We can visually see it. We think in pictures. Words are the hardest thing to remember. So we think in pictures. So when I'm creating or helping my clients create their story, we create a story of pictures, like a movie.
that's powerful as well.
Yeah. So we create that movie. And that's how I remember my speeches as well. I create a movie when I'm doing my speeches. And I have a movie board and I move scenes around and I use post-it notes to do these things. And I use different colored post-it notes for different scenes. Because again, we're using the visuals. Okay, we're using the visuals. So like I have a large whiteboard just to the left of me right now, and on that, if I'm trying to remember a speech, I try to break it down into 7 or 8 different points. Usually 7, because we remember numbers in odd numbers. It's easier to remember in odd. So normally 7 points, and I will have 7 different colored post-it notes down the side, and each of them will be the topic that, or the situation, or whatever I'm going to talk about within that particular task. And then I draw a picture on it. And then I will draw more pictures along beside them in the same color. So that in my head, it's a storyboard, and I'm literally just following the story. And because there's pictures on it, or graphics, or drawings, it connects them with that kinesthetic feel because you've drawn them on. So the idea for me in memory is my short-term memory isn't great. I have dyslexia and I have ADHD. My short-term memory is not good. It's actually not the memory that is not good. It's the recall of the short-term memory is not good. Where lots of people get this confused and mistaken that they have a bad memory. It's not. It's the recall. So
Right.
my filing system, if you want to call it that, is a little more complicated than someone that doesn't have ADHD or dyslexia. My filing system is a little bit more nuanced. So I might file a red ball underneath red and not ball. And it's just like, but then I might also file it under size 5 if it's a size 5 ball. And then I might file it under rugby and not football if it's a rugby ball. So my systems are a little more tricky to recall the information. And let's put it like this: if your information was a mile away to retrieve, well, mine's is 10. Okay, so the journey to get to mine is longer. Then the journey to find mine is longer. So that's why short-term recall is challenging for people with ADHD and dyslexia. And usually those two go hand in hand, by the way. ADHD and dyslexia. So that's why I use visuals. And that's why, for me, I'm a really good person to help other people memorize stuff. Because if I can do it, you can do it. And I have learned how to do it. And I have learned all the ways to do it. Because it was something I had to do to be good at what I'm doing.
Mm. No, definitely. And they say like a picture says 1,000 words, right? So it makes sense.
It certainly does. Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah. And final two questions before we wrap up. So another question I have for you is, since you mentioned you wake up in the morning, you have these meditation, reading books. So what's your daily habits that you do that keep you sharp in communication or as a leader?
The very first thing I do every single morning is, and I've got it beside me here, is a glass of water.
Drink water. Right.
The very first thing. Okay, so I will, when my alarm goes off, I do not hit snooze. I get out of bed. Okay. But I think for you to understand how my morning or how I set my morning up for success, my successful day starts the night before. It never starts in the morning. It's just a continuation of the night before. So my clothes are picked out. My towel is sitting in the shower, ready to be used. My alarm has been set and checked to make sure that it will go off. I have my book that I'm going to read sitting, ready for me to read, because I know I'm going to be groggy and a bit sleepy and a bit tired. It's maybe going to take me a bit longer to get into it in the morning. So I have all of these habits put in place already the night before. I've checked my diary. I know when my first client is. I know when my next client is. If I have a podcast that I'm recording, I have my podcast documents printed out. I have my questions ready. I've done my research. Everything is done the day before or the week before or the month before I need it. Because if I was depending on just waking up and hoping that the day was going to be successful, that ain't going to happen. That is not going to happen. I have tried this. And if people can see behind me right now, I have the book The Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I have another one by, I think it's Carl Digg. It's called Just Habits. I have read so many books around habits to understand what they do and what they are and how we use them and how we use them to our advantage. And I do that. My day starts the night before.
I'm going to take that away, actually. I'm going to borrow that idea.
You please borrow that idea and borrow it with pride.
Yes.
Even if I'm going to the gym, Sid, my gym gear is downstairs.
Wow.
Everything is sitting ready for me. Yeah, everything is ready the night before. To the point where the very laces in my shoes are untied. Okay? Anything that's going to cause me a barrier or a little struggle for me to go, oh well, the laces aren't tied, so I'm not going training now. That's too much effort.
So basically, you're not thinking at all. You're just like on it, like, okay, this is ready.
Doing.
You just do it. You're not wasting that time to think.
No.
to do
No,
it.
no.
Yeah,
You have
makes
a certain
sense.
amount of decisions you can make in a day before you get decision fatigue. Why am I wasting really good decisions that I could be using for my family and my business, deciding what clothes I'm going to wear to the gym?
Yeah, that makes sense. This,
Yeah,
this reminds me of like Mark Zuckerberg. I think he just wears like one T-shirt,
yeah,
like white or black or white
yeah,
actually all the time because
yeah.
he doesn't need to think about it.
No. And I actually took something from him and somebody else. There was somebody else. Steve Jobs. He's exactly the same. So my
But
people can see this. This is the shirt. So I have this shirt, but it's in 4 or 5 different colors. I have 2 pairs of the same trousers and I have 2 pairs of the same shoes. That is my uniform. I don't need to think because they all match each other and they all fit. And that's it. I just reach into the wardrobe, take it out, reach into the wardrobe, take it out, take my shoes downstairs, put them down. And that's it done. There's no thought needed in that process whatsoever. So it allows me to think more when I'm in my workplace, when I'm with my family. So I don't have that fatigue of decision making because it is a real thing. It's a
yeah,
real thing.
100%. I'm gonna
And
try
I've
it
and I've
for
seen
sure.
people. Well, but and I mean even that word that you use there, try. Don't try. Said just do it.
Yeah, I'll do
Do you know
it.
do you know what do you know what try means, Sid?
Just
Try
give it one
means
go.
whenever
Yeah,
you come and you failed and you say, well, Kevin, I tried. It's an excuse, Sid. It's an excuse in the
okay,
making. Okay?
I will
But
do it.
this is where the authenticity comes in, okay? And the integrity is that if you're not going to do it and in your heart of hearts you know you're not going to do it, don't say you are. Just don't say you are. This is where this personal responsibility comes in because it's really difficult to do. And you will want to say it because you want to please other people and you want other people to look at you and go, yeah, he's brilliant. But it's not about the other people anymore. It's about you. And this is why it's an inside job. It's all about you all the time. You know, no one makes you angry, sad, or happy. You allow them to make you angry, sad, or happy. That's it.
Stop. Love
That's
that.
it.
Thank
I
you.
love I love stoicism. I found stoicism many years ago, and
Ryan
I am
Holiday.
yep, and
I love Ryan.
and his one I absolutely love and started with because it was an easy read was the Daily Stoic.
Okay.
Okay, it's 1 page a day. It's not really that
Yep.
difficult, but it is really thought provoking. And I love it. Absolutely love it. And there's some days where I've read the book probably 5, 6 times. And there's some days where I will just go in and go to that day of that page or that page of that day. And I'll look at it and it makes sense for me on that day. It just makes sense. Because it's something maybe I've needed just at that time. It's a little reminder sometimes. Because we all need those little reminders sometimes. That is literally why I have things around me that remind me of how far I've came, where I'm going, what I'm trying to achieve. Like even on my door of my office, I have my vision board on my door, so that I see that every single day I leave my office and go, am I closer to that vision? And if not, I don't do it. I don't do the things that don't bring me closer to my vision or mission.
I've got so many questions, but we are running out of time. But um, final question before we wrap up, Kevin. So you mentioned at the start that you have met so many successful people
Mm-hmm.
through your business, through your work. So what one interpersonal skills stands out in all of the successful people you have met?
Listening. Listening. But also realizing that your business is not about you. So really successful people understand that their business, even if they have started it, even if they put their blood, sweat, and tears and their money into it, it is not about them. It is about their clients. It is about their customers. Those individuals understand that at a really granular level, that they know that they have to ask, what do you need? Not, this is what I think you need. So they ask that question, what do you need? Then they take that information away and they do something with it. So the majority of my workshops said, I will ask everybody in the room to write down what they want from that workshop, then what they need from that workshop, then what they deeply desire from that workshop, then what they most fear about this workshop, then what they have tried in the past, and then what they have tried in the past that they absolutely hate. Now, those 6 questions, I get them to write them down, and I take those 6 questions away, and I look at those 6 questions, and I build workshops based around those answers they give. They are telling me what they want. They're telling me what they fear most. They're telling me what they've tried in the past and they didn't like, so I don't do that. They tell me what they want, what they need, what they desire, and what they fear. These are really
That's
deep,
so
deep
smart.
questions.
Yeah.
They're telling you without even realizing they're creating this type of environment that I will be creating for them. It's almost like what do you call those groups? Like a
Mastermind groups.
almost like that. But there's another name for them when you get people in who know nothing about your product or service, and it's like a trial group. They're almost telling you what they want, and all you got to do is give it to them. But remember what I said earlier? When you help people get what they want, you get what you want.
What you want. Yeah.
And that's it. And that's what most successful people do. They realize that when you help people get what they want, you get what you want.
No, that's so true. And I love how you take that feedback from your clients and you build that for them. That makes sense. That's so smart as well.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Kevin. I really enjoyed talking to you, and so many golden nuggets in like 1 hour for our listeners. So thank you so much as well. And for our listeners, if you enjoyed the episode, please comment below what's your biggest key takeaway from this episode. And I'll link Kevin's all social media handles and his business site as well. So please check it out. And also, I recommend you guys to read the news article, the newsletters that Kevin has mentioned and written in his website is really, really good. I've read all of them, and all of them are filled with practical nuggets. It's just practical advice. There's no fluff in it. So I really recommend. And finally, thank you once again, Kevin. I really enjoyed talking to you today.
It was my absolute pleasure, and good luck with everything that you're doing. Sid, you're doing a hell of a job. Keep down to you.
Thank you so much, Kevin. Thank you. Really appreciate it. Thank you
My
to our
pleasure.
listeners as well. See you.